We've been talking for a long time about how law of attraction responds, and how if you focus on a thought for as little, we used to say 17 seconds, now we're saying it's closer to 16. If you focus upon something for as short of time as 16 seconds, another thought like it will join it. And if you hold that thought now for another 16 or 17 seconds, another thought like it will join it. And this is that momentum gathering. And once you cross that 67, 66, 67, 68 second mark, now you have a substantial point of attraction going on. Now, we've been saying this for years. Now let's put this in the context of what we've been talking about satisfaction, and how when you reach for satisfaction, if you stay there for as little as that 68 second time, now you have established enough absence of resistance that now the momentum can really exponentially increase. So right there in what you're just bringing back to the conversation is where your control is. Because when a thought comes to you, it doesn't matter if someone speaks it, if you see it, doesn't matter. Law of attraction has brought it to you. But you have some control over how much of your attention you give it in that first 16 seconds and the second. But once it crosses that 68 second mark, you pretty much have lost control of this thought. How about that? We've been telling that story for years, and no one really understands the importance of that. And so that's why we're taking another tact at it, that if you're leaning towards satisfaction and taking the time to identify and isolate what that is. So let's say that you're moving through an experience and some thought occurs to you. Doesn't matter how it got there, because it doesn't matter if you remembered it, if you rendezvoused with it, if someone walked up and said it to you. It's law of attraction just the same. So let's say that you're just in the beginning stages of one of those thoughts, but you're keen to the awareness of which way it's leaning, unsatisfied or satisfied, and you care about it being satisfied. In those very early stages, you have control over which way you go, or whether or not to go at all with that thought. We just wanted to establish that at the beginning of this conversation. And we're appreciative that you've reintroduced that powerful conversation about why it's prudent to catch it early. Law of attraction is fast.
It's quick.
Yeah.
It's super quick, because I was doing really good. I was meditating every day, just like you said. Meditated every day for a month. And then I woke up a week prior to coming here, and I followed an impulse from my source, and we had the most glorious day. And we just reveled for like 5 hours, just milked every impulse for 5 hours. And it was beautiful, because I had built up resistance on a subject that was really important to me, and I couldn't wiggle it loose. So I did what you said. I got off the subject, and I leaned into any and everything that was not related to that cheered me up. And then,
which is what our previous friend was asking, should I surrender? And we're saying you're surrendering the resistance. You're not giving up the desire. You are releasing the resistance. And there's a big difference. Sometimes when people use the word surrender, to them it means just give this up. Just give it up already. It's not come and just let it go. That's not what we mean. We mean give up the resistance by distracting yourself or by focusing upon things that feel better, and then off you go. And so
off we went, and my satisfaction for 3 or 4 days has been building, because I was coming here, and it's my first time here, and you've been instrumental in helping me get here, and it was very exciting for both of us. And so I was so excited, I dropped this gigantic piece of resistance on this thing that I wasn't talking about, and then it flowed into my existence. And then I was like, oh, contrast. But we are doing step 4, so it's okay. The contrast was great. The clarity that came from it, the clarity that came from this contrast answered the questions that I had been asking and pestering my source about. And so when the contrast came this time, it wasn't overwhelming, it wasn't distressing, it wasn't something that I let take me and run me into the bushes. It was something that I was able to absorb, allow, let it flow, and then recenter myself.
So let's talk about this, because we've been talking for a while, and it's certainly what you're reintroducing here is the subject of step 5. Step 1 is ask, step 2 is source answer, step 3 is you get into the receiving mode, step 4 is you are really good at being in the receiving mode. It's odd that a step would be about the other step. But step 4 is really mastering step 3. Mastering being in the receiving mode. Step 5 is you're back in step 1 and you're not upset about it. You're back in step 1 because you understand the value of the contrast. So now let's talk about this new here right now. So let's tell the story the way you told it. You were paying attention to how you felt. You stayed off of a subject by staying on another subject. You chose resistance-free subjects and managed to maintain a substantial period of time and therefore period of attraction, therefore period of allowing thoughts to turn to things, where you were allowing what you wanted to flow into your experience. Resistance was very slight. And then, because of that, you were satisfied and more, yes? Mm-hmm. Satisfied and more. So now, here's a question we have for all of you. So if you're satisfied and more, meaning satisfied and frisky and exhilarant and happy and loving and all of those things. So if you're satisfied and more, and you then receive an experience that formerly you called resistant in nature, our question to you is, if you are substantially satisfied or more, are you not substantially in the receiving mode of source? And therefore, isn't what you are now attracting part of the process to get you to where you want to be? Isn't that a strong differentiation for you? Things that you have previously been saying, oh, something negative is happening, I must be negatively attracting. But if you have isolated, if you have shown yourself that your vibration is stable and you know that you have been in the resistance-free zone, and then while in that resistance-free zone, you get an impulse or something happens that calls your attention to it, that's what step 5 is. Step 5 is being satisfied even when contrast is showing itself to you. Isn't that a wonderful thing? Isn't that when you're making good choices? So let's play that the other way. Let's say that you've been dissatisfied and not satisfied and not satisfied and worse, not satisfied and more than not satisfied, dissatisfied and more than not satisfied, and some piece of something comes to you. What influence were you under? That's the question. Under what influence did this new experience happen? Was it sent by source, or was it something you picked up along your physical trail? Isn't this clarifying to you? Haven't you been wondering about these things? Because we watched you. Every time you feel a little bit of negative emotion, you go, you try to suck it back, try to suck it back before law of attraction gets hold of it. And then you get into self-condemnation. Oh, I thought I was doing better than this, and if I were really a deliberate creation, then this wouldn't have happened. Instead of acknowledging that there's no one judging you but you. We don't care. No one does if you're in a step 1 moment. That matters too. You were born to have step 1 moments. And we exist to carry your step 2 moments. And you were born to have step 3 moments. And understanding whether you're in step 1 or step 3 is all that really matters. And when you master knowing which one you're in, then you're in step 5. You're not running and hiding. Esther didn't break down in tears when the car rolled into her car. Oh, you have no idea what this means. This means that I'm not attracting in the way that I really should, and I teach this stuff. I'm in a magazine. I'm the 27th most spiritual person on the planet. This should not have happened to me. I'm going to have to go home and meditate now. Things are not going well for me. None of that. She just laughed at it because that's how important it was or wasn't.
The situation that happened to me was very important, but when it presented itself to me, I cried, but it was a releasing of resistance because I felt that. I felt the momentum that I had been getting off of that was negative. I had felt it building, so I was like, all right, just put that in the corner, let's get off that. And then I just felt it subside.
Well, it's that releasing of resistance.
It's the best.
This is going to sound odd coming from someone who offers so many words, but you talk too much about too much.
I agree.
And you psychoanalyze yourself and everyone else far too much. And you make big, hairy deals out of things that just aren't that important. Really, how much do you stand around and talk with each other about that gravity thing? You know? That gravity thing is so steady and so prevalent. It's pervasive in my experience. It's just pervasive, and it seems to affect everything about my day. And everyone else's too. You're not standing in corners discussing that law. You accept it as law. You understand its reaction to you and your reaction to it, and that's about it. Not one of you understands electricity. None of you do. None of you do. You're switch flippers. You're switch flippers, and that's a good thing. Knob turners and button pokers. That's the extent. Do that, and that happens. And really, we would like you to not get too philosophical about each and every emotion you have all day long. We know we do it as we're trying to help you to find your way. But really, that's like saying, this is a very hot stove. It's a really hot stove. In fact, I'll push the button. Crank it up. It's really hot. I'm going to put a pot of water on it and bring it to boil, or I'm going to cook something and I'm going to adjust it based upon the results that I'm getting. But I really do not need to know the frequency of the current and how it's working inside of it. I really don't have to know all of that stuff. And I might originally, in wanting to understand it, I might touch it and I would get what we want to call sensory feedback. Not intellectual feedback. It's not, oh yeah, I can feel. That's the wattage in that, the amperage in that is, wait a minute, I've almost got it. Wait. You've got this sensory response to it, and you can tell what its relationship to you is. And everything is like that. We want you to use your sensory perception, which in what we're talking about here, we mean your emotional perception, in order to determine whether you want to go further or not about subjects. And as you do that, it becomes so simple and so easy to identify and isolate the point of attraction, the set point that you want, and then you can spend all the rest of your time witnessing the universe's response to what you've said.
Okay, so that's a great entrance to what I'm about to ask. I was driving along and I was just rampaging to myself because it's something that I do nowadays. I let my source drive. It's way more fun. Everybody try it. My source drives and I was rampaging about how fabulous it felt to let her drive. She picks the best routes, the most beautiful vistas. I feel so safe. The police don't stop me. It's so exciting to be, in complete unison with my source as we go down the road, and we're so happy. The music is perfect. She's singing to me, la, la, la. And the light turns green. All my lights are green. I love my life. It's fantastic, right? Oh, so good. I was in such a great feeling place, and I happened to look to the left because something just caught my eye.
So if you were in a really great feeling place, if you were really in the satisfaction mode, then what happened is a step 5 moment for you, isn't it?
It was super step 5 then. Okay. That makes sense, because a car almost hit me, but it didn't. And it literally looked like a movie. It looked like someone snatched the car stop. But I was not scared. I was rampaging. I was in this great place of security and the fullness of myself, and it felt so amazing. And I looked to the left and I was like, why is he stopped? And I looked to the right and I was like, oh, he stopped because that guy.
So why are we having this conversation? Isn't everything about it perfectly obvious?
I thought it was, so I thought I just should share it with you so we could help them. I don't really know, because I think we're just having fun. I really enjoy it.
It's a really good conversation to have. But things like that are happening to you all day long. A lot of human perspective. Esther remembers even in the coming into conversation with Abraham, and she, at first, for just a little while, thought that the greatest value of her interaction with us is that we would keep her from falling in holes, that we would keep her from falling off cliffs, that now she would have guidance that would protect her from things. And it wasn't long before she came to understand that that's not our style, that we are not guarding her from things, we're guiding her to things. But if you've dodged a bullet, then you might feel like you've been protected from the bullet, when really you've just been called to where the bullet wasn't.
That's what I was wondering.
And that's the way your inner being operates. Your inner being is always calling you toward what you do want. And to varying degrees, you hear and come. Nice to know, isn't it?
That was fabulous.
Really good.
Okay.
Enough?
Thank you.
Really good.